The Forgotten Chord by David Russo. Chapter 1. The Street's Refrain. Eli Marlowe strummed a slow, moody progression on his battered guitar, his fingers numb in the damp air. Rain tapped rhythmically on the tin awning above him, syncing with the muffled footfalls of passerby who barely spared him a glance. His breath misted with each chord, and his voice, low and worn, disappeared in the fog of city noise. Another day, another dollar, he muttered, glancing into his guitar case. A single coin and a coffee-stained 5 stared back. Make that $1.50. Play something sadder, a voice croaked suddenly. Eli looked up. A man stood just a few feet away, as if he had emerged from the shadows, tall, hunched, soaked through like he hadn't noticed the rain. His coat was frayed at the cuffs. His eyes, what little Eli could see beneath the brim of a tilted hat, glinted like polished coal. "You a fan of sad songs?" Eli asked cautiously, shifting the guitar in his lap. The man didn't answer. He bent down, slow and deliberate, and dropped something into the open case. Not coins, not cash. A folded, crumpled sheet of paper. "Hey!" Eli started to speak, but the man was already backing away, turning into the mist like a trick of light. "Wait! What is this?" No reply, just the sound of the rain swallowing footsteps that shouldn't have been that quiet. Eli unfolded the sheet. The paper was thick, aged, and brittle. Ink danced across the staff lines in elegant, looping script. The title sat at the top, almost glowing against the yellowed background. The Song of Memory. He squinted at the last bar. Something was wrong. "No way," he whispered. The final chord was there, but it wasn't. The notes were blurred, as if someone had smudged them with a wet thumb, or tried to erase them entirely. From behind him, a woman in a hurry tossed a glance and said, "You playing or reading?" Eli didn't answer. He ran his fingers over the notes, feeling a strange chill crawl up his spine. "I think I just found something," he said to himself, "or maybe it found me." Chapter 2. Echoes in the Air. The subway station was nearly empty. Just a few late commuters, a man asleep on a bench, and a scruffy golden retriever tied to a railing, tail twitching in dreams. The trains howled like ghosts in the distance, the air thick with damp concrete and static. Eli sat cross-legged near a tiled column, guitar on his lap. The worn sheet music popped against his open case. His fingers hesitated at the strings. Something in his gut told him not to do it. But he was tired, of hunger, of nothing gigs, of wondering why this piece found him. He strummed the first few bars. The melody poured out slowly and strange, familiar and unfamiliar at once, like déjà vu in sound. His voice followed, barely a whisper, laced with something older than his own timbre. At bar 7, the incomplete measure, his fingers danced over the blurred notation, improvising instinctively. As he hit the unresolved chord, it rang out like a question never meant to be asked. Across the station, the golden retriever snapped awake and began to whine. A woman sitting nearby jolted upright. Her latte slipped from her hand and shattered, unnoticed. She stared at Eli, pupils wide, mouth parting like she was about to scream. Then she collapsed. "Hey!" Eli stopped playing and dropped his guitar, running to her. She convulsed once, then lay still. Her lips trembled. "The yellow bicycle," she whispered hoarsely. "Mama said I never had one, but I remember the bell. The bell rang when I fell. I scraped my knee. The sun was gold, and she was alive." Her voice trailed off into a sob. "Miss, Are you okay? Do you need help? Eli looked around. A man was already dialing 911. The retriever, now wide-eyed and stiff, let out a long, keening howl that echoed off the tile walls. The howl harmonized uncannily with the last chord Eli had played. Then the temperature dropped. Not just subway cold, wrong cold. Eli's breath fogged in the air, and every surface shimmered with a faint frost. Someone cursed. Another man muttered, "What the hell is going on?" Eli looked back at the sheet music. The page had curled at the edges, as if reacting to something unseen. His fingers tingled where they touched the final notes. He picked up the guitar slowly, heart pounding. This wasn't just music, it was a key, and he had just unlocked something. Chapter 3, Off-Key Realities. Eli sipped burnt coffee in the back of Lena's apartment, hunched over her cluttered desk. Maps, sticky notes, and scribbled printouts covered every inch of the cork board above them. Circles and arrows tracing incidents around the city. You see this? Lena tapped a red pen. That's the guy who claimed he suddenly remembered being a sailor in 1912. Swears he can still tie ship knots blindfolded, and he's never left Queens. Eli stared at her. You're saying that's my fault? I'm saying, she replied, pulling her hair into a messy bun. This started the day you played that damn song in the subway. He leaned back, folding his arms. I didn't tell him to remember a past life. No, but you might have triggered something, a neurological effect, like induced cryptomnesia or a kind of mass shared false memory. She clicked open her laptop and brought up a spreadsheet. I've been tracking the reports. They're spreading. Eli, like the melody is contagious. Eli nodded slowly, uneasily. But it's not just memory stuff. People say time feels weird, like they lose moments. One guy said his dog aged 10 years in an hour. I know, believe me. I'm trying to keep this scientific. Lena gave him a look, half worry, half disbelief. But last night, he tilted his head. What? I had a dream. No, not a dream. It was him. Him who? My brother. Her voice cracked. Jamie. He was standing in the hallway, barefoot, just like when we were kids. And he was singing it. Eli, the song. Your song. Eli sat still, the hairs on his arms rising. I asked him how he knew it, she went on, and he just looked at me and said, It's always been there. You just forgot how to listen. Then I woke up. Neither of them spoke for a long moment. Outside, a siren wailed distantly, distorted like a warped cassette. Finally, Eli whispered, You still think this is just science? Lena stared down at the notes on her desk, scattered, trembling, slightly in the breeze from the window. I don't know what I think anymore, she said, but I think this song remembers us. Chapter 4, The Archivist. The shuttered door groaned open like it hadn't moved in years. Dust swirled in the air as Eli stepped into the Forgotten Music Library, his guitar case bumping against the old wood. The faint scent of mildew and parchment greeted him like a warning. Thought it might be you, a voice rasped from the shadows. Eli froze. From behind a towering shelf of manuscripts, a man emerged, tall, draped in a heavy wool coat, spectacles glinting in the dim amber light of a single desk lamp. His gray hair spilled to his shoulders like untuned string, and his eyes were too sharp for his age. Who are you? Eli asked. Carrick, last custodian of this place, and you are carrying something that doesn't belong to you. Eli tightened the grip on his guitar case. The sheet music? Carrick nodded once. The song of memory. It's older than it should be, and it found you. which means it's begun again. Begun what? Carrick moved slowly, deliberately, and pulled out a thick binder from the shelf. He opened it to a yellowed photo of a man at a piano. Isaac Leclerc, composer, genius, madman. He wrote that piece in 1873, then vanished before its debut. I know, Eli said. I've read a little. Carrick's hand hit the desk with a thump. You've read nothing that matters. The final chord was removed for a reason, Mr. Marlowe. Not to make the piece unfinished, to keep something from waking. Eli swallowed. Waking? What? Like a spirit? Carrick looked at him evenly. Not a spirit, not anything so polite, something that doesn't belong to our time, or any time. Eli hesitated. But it's just music. Carrick's mouth twitched into something between a smirk and a grimace. So was the tuning fork that shattered crystal in Leipzig. So was the lullaby that made 4 children forget their own names. Music isn't always art, boy. Sometimes it's architecture. Eli looked down at the folded sheet in his case. The notes seemed darker somehow, deeper. And if I find the missing chord? Carrick's eyes narrowed. Then God help us both. Chapter 5. The Composer's Curse. The journal was bound in cracked leather, its pages brittle with age. Eli turned them carefully, each one covered in looping French cursive and ink sketches of staff lines, symbols, even strange geometric shapes tucked between bars of music. Lena hovered behind him in the candle-lit corner of Carrick's study. You sure this is his? She asked. Carrick nodded. Leclerc's hand. I've studied it for years. The man was unraveling. Eli squinted at a particular passage. La porte n'est pas physique. Eli vibre en nous. He looked up. The door isn't physical. It vibrates within us. Lena leaned closer. He's not talking about metaphor. He means literal resonance. Carrick spoke quietly. Leclerc believed music could align human perception with something greater, said certain frequencies, if structured correctly, could open a passage not to another place, but another version of self. Eli flipped to the final pages, a faint sketch sketched across 2 yellowed leaves, bars of music written in symbols he didn't recognize, circles, slashes, inverted clefs, and lines that weren't notes at all, but almost equations. What the hell is this? Eli asked. Carrick exhaled. That's the final chord, or Leclerc's last attempt to write it down. He abandoned standard notation here, said traditional music theory couldn't hold it. I don't even know how to read this, Eli muttered. You're not meant to read it, Carrick replied. You're meant to feel it, translate it. Yes, but not with your eyes. Lena stepped back, staring at the sketch. It looks like it's moving. Is it me? Or, it's not you, Carrick said. The notation is harmonic glyph work, forgotten system, part mathematics, part intuition. Leclerc called it inframusic, music beneath music. Eli stared at the chord. His fingers itched. It's humming, he said, under his breath. I think I can hear it. Carrick turned sharply, then stopped listening. But Eli didn't, because in the back of his mind, he already knew. The chord was calling him. Chapter 6, Resonance. Okay, that one's not a note, Lena said, topping the symbol shaped like an inverted triangle overlaid with a spiral. It's more like a directional marker. Leclerc was thinking in frequencies, not pitches. Eli sat cross-legged on the rooftop, guitar in his lap, the city stretching behind him in soft, metallic dusk. He glanced at the open notebook between them, where they transcribed parts of the strange notation into something vaguely playable. You think this is safe? He asked quietly. No, Lena said flatly, but you're gonna play it anyway. He gave her a look. I'm not trying to unlock the apocalypse. I just want to understand what this thing wants. Lena sighed and leaned back, squinting at the pink clouds. If time explodes, I'm blaming you. Eli adjusted his fingers on the fretboard. The chord felt wrong, like trying to thread electricity through water. He exhaled and played it. The sound rang out softly at first, then the rooftop bent. The breeze halted. A pigeon mid-flight just stopped, wings suspended mid-beat. The city sounds, the distant honk of taxis, the hum of life below, flattened into a deafening, unnatural silence. Eli, Lena whispered, her voice sharp with panic. What did you just... But Eli wasn't listening, because across the rooftop, about 10 feet from where he sat, another version of himself stood watching, older, grayer, a scar running from temple to jaw. He wore no shoes, just stood barefoot in the silence, eyes wide, as if he recognized Eli and pitied him. Who? Eli stood slowly, his voice barely a breath. The older Eli raised one hand, not a wave, a warning. And then, like a snapped rubber band, sound returned. The city roared back to life. The pigeon flapped away. Lena gasped like she'd been held underwater. What the hell just happened? She choked out. I felt like my whole body lagged. Eli looked down at his hands. They were trembling. I don't think it's about memory, he said. Not just memory. Lena steadied herself on the ledge. Then what? He turned toward her, eyes hollow. I think the song's a mirror, and every time I play it, it shows me something closer to what's really there. Chapter 7. The Harmonic Vault. Eli pressed his palm against a faded fresco at the back of the opera house's sub-basement. The mural was cracked and water-stained, an abstract swirl of lyres, broken clefs, and faceless musicians. But tonight, one section had glowed faintly in his vision. Just before he woke up gasping, the chord still vibrating in his head. With a soft click, the wall shifted inward. A stale gust of air swept out, carrying the scent of aged wood and old dust. Eli stepped through the narrow opening, descending the spiral stair lit only by his flashlight. What the hell is in this place? He murmured. At the bottom, a vast circular chamber. Tuning forks the size of lampposts lined the walls, humming at the edge of hearing. Ancient manuscripts lay sealed beneath glass. Unidentifiable instruments, some stringed, some metallic, some bone, rested on marble pedestals, and in the center, a raised platform with a cracked music stand. Holy moly, Lena whispered from behind him. She had followed, breathless, wide-eyed. It's like a crypt for sound. Eli walked slowly toward the center, the air thickening with every step. Someone built this, he said, not as a concert hall, as a containment site. Lena crouched near one of the tuning forks. They're vibrating, without being touched, like they're responding to you. He glanced around at the scattered relics, half-burned journals, broken strings, instruments snapped mid-song. This isn't the first time someone tried to play the full chord, he said. They made it this far, maybe further. But they didn't come back, Lena added quietly. He nodded. Then his gaze landed on a violin case resting under a cracked stone plaque, a name etched in French, I Leclerc. Eli whispered, He made it here too. A sudden low tone vibrated through the chamber, deep as thunder, but with no source. Lena gripped his arm. Something knows we're here. Eli looked to the music stand. On it, a sheet of parchment. Not the full score, just a single measure, the next chord. He stepped forward, unable to stop himself. I have to finish it, he said. Lena shook her head. You don't. That's what it wants. Eli's voice was steady, but his eyes were far away. I think it wants to be remembered. Chapter 8. Dissonant Truths. Carrick locked the door behind them and drew the blackout curtains. Dust danced in the amber light of a single desk lamp. The old archivist looked older than Eli had ever seen him, like the years had caught up in a single breath. You found the vault, Carrick said, without turning around. Eli stiffened. How do you know that? Carrick slowly faced him, eyes heavy. Because I was the last one to come back from it, and I came back wrong. Eli's mouth went dry. You were one of them? Carrick nodded. The Concordia Harmonia, a quiet order. Historians, composers, monks. We weren't guarding treasure. We were guarding silence. There are some things you're not supposed to hear. Eli stepped closer, his voice hard. What is it? What does the full melody do? Carrick hesitated. Then it summoned something. Not a god, not a demon, an idea, a sentient, hungry idea that doesn't live in our world, but remembers it. He pulled out a faded manuscript and slid it toward Eli. Diagrams of spiraling time signatures, circles looping through memories. It feeds on identity, Carrick said, on the boundary between who you are and who you might have been. You lose yourself, but worse, you become someone you were never meant to be. Fragments stitched together by a song that wants to rewrite you. Eli stared at him. You said Leclerc vanished? Carrick's voice dropped. He didn't vanish. He merged. He played the full piece, became part of the music. His mind broke into versions of himself that never existed. He's still echoing in the melody. Sometimes, if you listen closely, Eli swallowed, remembering the old man in his dream, the same eyes, the same scar. You see him? Carrick leaned forward. You're already infected, Eli. Every time you play it, the music learns more of you, maps you, rewrites the notes of your life. Eli whispered, Then why do I still want to hear it? Carrick's face was grim. Because that's how it starts, not with a scream, with a song. Chapter 9. The Final Note. Eli woke with a gasp, sweat clinging to his skin like fog. The dream clung harder. He had been a child playing violin in a sunlit parlor, then an old man on a porch, humming to a bird that didn't exist, then a soldier, then a father, then a version of himself with no name, no past, just music. They had all been singing the same tune. The final chord had come to him, not as notes, but as memory. Lena sat across from him, watching with bloodshot eyes. You had the dream again, she said quietly. He nodded. All of them. Me, but not me. She stood, pacing. You can't play it, Eli. You know what it does. You saw what happened in the vault. I saw what will happen if I don't. That's not the truth talking, she snapped. That's the melody inside your head, whispering. It wants out. You said so yourself. Eli picked up his guitar. His hands no longer shook. I think I was always supposed to hear it, he said softly. And maybe that means I was supposed to finish it. Lena's voice broke. And what if you finish it and disappear like Leclerc? What if I lose you? He looked at her. You already have. Every time I play, a part of me drifts. Not the same Eli you met. Not exactly. He stepped into the middle of the room, closed his eyes, and began to play. Then came the final chord, the true chord. The room shattered. Light cracked in all directions like broken glass made of time. Lena dropped to her knees, gasping as images flooded her. Being born in a city that never existed, loving people she never met, dying and waking and becoming. Around them, time stuttered. The air thickened. Clocks melted mid-tick. Outside, people screamed, then laughed, then fell silent, all in the span of seconds. Eli saw versions of himself spinning around him in a prism of thought. A man who never picked up music, a beggar, a killer, a monk, a silence, and then nothing. Or something deeper, a space between identity, a voice, not spoken, felt. Now we remember you. Eli dropped the guitar. It didn't hit the ground. Chapter 10. The silence between. The street was empty. No cars, no wind, no sound, not even the distant hum of electricity or the soft flutter of wings. Just Eli lying in the middle of cracked asphalt beneath a colorless sky. His guitar beside him, split down the neck like it had been cleaved by silence itself. He sat up slowly, breath fogging in the still air despite the summer heat. The sheet music was gone. "Lena," he called out. No answer, not even an echo. Then footsteps, soft, hesitant. He turned just as Lena rounded the corner, wide-eyed and pale. "Eli," she whispered, as if afraid speaking too loud would break something. He nodded, but didn't smile. "I'm here, I think." She dropped beside him, arms wrapping around his shoulders before pulling back suddenly. "You're cold," she said, like not just skin cold, gone cold. Eli looked past her. A bird hung in the sky above, unmoving. "I remember things," he said quietly. "A garden with blue grass, a woman with no eyes who used to sing me to sleep, a funeral where I was the coffin." Lena swallowed hard. "Those aren't your memories." "No," he said, "but I live them, somewhere." They sat in silence for a long time. Finally, Lena asked, "Is it over?" Eli looked down at his cracked guitar, then at his hands, now subtly marked with faint, shifting patterns beneath the skin, almost like sheet music. "No," he said, "it's quiet now, but it's not over." Lena glanced around. "It's too quiet. I can't hear the city." Eli nodded slowly. "Something's listening." She stared at him. "You mean something out there?" He met her eyes, expression unreadable. "No, I mean something in here." He tapped his chest once, and it knows. I finished the song.